Chapter 4. Not everything is created equal. This chapter's title should be obvious. Everything in the universe is not equivalent to everything that is desired in a fast food order. There are currently more videos on the internet than there are videos that you have seen and are aware of. There are more ways a single 3x3 Rubik's Cube can be arranged than the total number of Rubik's Cubes ever created. There are more universes in the multiverse than the amount of Planck seconds our one universe has experienced since the Big Bang, assuming the null hypothesis of dimensionalism is the correct hypothesis. And considering that the previous chapter showed that there are 4 different mathematical types of nothing, it shouldn't come as a surprise that there are different mathematical types of everything too. Perhaps this sounds pedantic. Everything generally refers to everything that can be considered a thing, not everything that is considered this particular thing. But this still begs the question, what is a thing? If we as different individuals cannot agree on what constitutes a thing, my definition of all the things may include or exclude very important parameters of what you would consider all the things. For now, I would say that a thing is a solitary unit, a meaningful entity that holds the common dimensional characteristics of the unit. Let's say this thing is a shoe. It may be made of multiple parts itself, consisting of a shoelace, a sole or heel, a tongue, and possibly some supports.
So things can be made up of other things. A thing can be an emergent phenomenon from its smaller parts.
The functionality of the shoe can be for the moving attire of one-legged animals, for half of a pair for bipedal creatures, or the killing of an undesired insect, or to sit there unused for aesthetic purposes.
So things appear to be capable of interacting with other things. This gives a thing an objective quality of utility in the physical world.
It may be a doll shoe, a dog shoe, a horseshoe, a boot, a sandal, a slipper, a tennis shoe, a bowling shoe, a slip-resistant shoe, or the house of an old woman in a nursery rhyme.
So a thing appears to be capable of being qualitatively classified and quantitatively ordered to distinguish it from other similar things. This gives the thing a subjective quality of description beyond its physical attributes.
So everything is a complete quantitative set of whatever you are incorporating as a thing.
Be specific, even in your generalizable and vague terms. You say, God made everything. What do you mean? Do you mean everything that is alive? Everything that is finite to us? Ordered everything? Omega everything? Everything finite in a parallel universe? Everything that is evil? What do you mean when you say thing? Because if you say evil is a thing, God made it, according to your statement of God made everything. But if you say evil is not a thing, then what is the point of God being a source of salvation to deliver us from this non-existent evil? It appears to put omnibenevolent gods in quite a bind, if you ask me.
So mathematically, here's what I meticulously defined as everything. Everything is defined as the power set of all distinguishable and knowable finite numbers. We will not be able to compute the full set, considering that between and including the integers 0 and 1, there will be an aleph null amount of decimal possibilities to consider. To consider the complete set of every real finite number, just writing the everything clover, pronounced everything, will do. Computing everything may be impossible, but defining its existence and parameters is not impossible. But everything is not really everything. To actually encompass what I call omega everything, we need to also include everything that is also transfinite, infinite, and unknowable on the real number line.
So our universe is contained within everything. Go figure. It is the limit of what we can observe and know in the multiverse. It contains everything finite that we can objectively know and interact with. Every universe that contains the same 10-dimensional properties as ours since shortly after the Big Bang is contained within ordered everything. This is the logical extent of what we can conceptually order and rationally believe exists within the multiverse. Every last thing that could causally come about to be a thing within an unknown amount of new physical dimension types and occurrences are contained within omega everything. Our imagination is the limit of what is possible, and yet the most holy equation of mathematical chaos says that even these unbelievable and mystical worlds exist, because 0 divided by 0 is not just equal to everything, but it is equal to omega everything. If you are inevitable, a universe having 4 spatial dimensions housing 4D biological systems is just as inevitable. Not enemy.
The only difference between imaginary everything and omega everything is if the infinite thing actually exists or not. If it does exist, it is designated as a real infinite number. It is part of omega everything. If it does not exist, it is designated as an imaginary infinite number and is part of imaginary everything.
0, nothing, zilch, nada, and null sit at the intersection between the real and the imaginary. Only they hold the knowledge of what exists and what is purely imagined within the sets of omega everything and imaginary everything.
An important caveat here is to recognize that the usage of terms real and imaginary to mathematically describe the real world of everything that exists is nearly pointless, because both the real and the imaginary numbers are actually both, in fact, imaginary. There are no real numbers that we can physically grasp and say, aha, there is 1. This is the full objective manifestation of what it means to be 1. There are only numbers that are imagined, which gives realness and imaginariness an air of subjectivity.
So, are zilch and nada real or imaginary? They are surely real. But even though I fully admit that these deities are complete figments of my imagination, what they represent intersect and connect to the real world. Nothing is both the objective lack of things and the subjective interpretation of the apparent lack of things. And everything is both the objective inclusion of all the things and the subjective interpretation of what constitutes all the things.
Every individual thing is capable of being quantified. As stated earlier, a thing holds some dimensional properties that distinguish it from other things. So if we instead focus on the dimensions of a thing rather than the thing itself, the properties of the thing then become clear. Nothing in this instance emerges when the dimensions have a value of 0 attributed to the relevant dimensions. And everything, by contrast, is completed when every acceptable combination of values that could be attributed to these same relevant dimensions have been exhausted. And that was chapter 4.